Most people don't choose the day their career ends. Statistics say it chooses them, and it's probably going to happen years before you think.
Here's a number that should bother you.
Well over half of retirees leave the workforce earlier than they intended, not because they hit their number, but because their body, their employer, or their family gave them no other option.
And the strange part isn't that it happens. It's that almost everyone who gets blindsided by it had a plan.
A real one, spreadsheets, contribution percentages, a tidy little date circled on a calendar. So what actually goes wrong?
I spent the last several weeks pulling apart the research, government surveys, insurance filings, benefits studies, the actuarial data behind Social Security itself.
And what I found wasn't a single flaw. It's 3 separate systems, each with its own failure mode, all lining up to hit the same generation in the same window of years.
I'm going to walk you through all 3, and by the end you'll understand why Max the 401k retire at 67 is not a plan, it's a guess dressed up in a spreadsheet.
Here's the trap. Retirement planning feels like arithmetic. Balance, contribution rate, expected growth, target date, punch it in, get a number, feel good.
But that number is actually a bet.
A bet that your health holds, your employer stays stable, the market behaves, Congress doesn't change the rules, and the insurance market doesn't shift underneath you all at once, for 2 decades.
Straight history is not kind to that particular bet. Think of it like this. You've plotted a route on a hiking app that promises to get you to the summit by sundown.
The trail looks clear. Your pace looks fine. What the app doesn't show you is that this exact trail has a landslide zone near the top, one that swallowed a majority of hikers before they reached the peak.
Nobody marked it because the map was built assuming nothing would go wrong. The map isn't lying. It's just missing the part where the ground gives out.
Let me introduce you to someone. I'll call him Marcus, 54 years old, roughly $260 zeros, euro saved, 11 years until his target retirement at 65.
On paper, this is a success story in progress. His advisor liked the numbers. He liked the numbers.
At 57, Marcus tore a shoulder tendon lifting something ordinary, nothing dramatic, just bad luck.
Recovery kept him out of full duty for months. During that stretch, his division got restructured. He came back to a smaller role and a smaller paycheck.
He adjusted the spreadsheet, pushed the date. Then, a year and a half later, a second round of cuts came through, and this time he was in it.
59 years old, roughly a year of expenses in the bank, and a decade left before his savings could even be touched without penalty.
Was Marcus bad at planning? No. His math was correct the whole way through.
What was wrong was the assumption baked silently into every version of that spreadsheet, that nothing would knock him off course before the finish line.
Something always can. Here's the reframe I want stuck in your head. The shortfall most people worry about, not saving enough, is real, but it's the smaller problem.
The bigger one is that almost every plan is built around a finish line. Most people never actually reach on schedule.
You can do everything, right?
For a retirement starting at 67 and still come up short because your real starting line showed up at 61, uninvited, and nothing in your plan accounted for that possibility.
The data backs this up hard.
In recent workforce surveys, a clear majority of retirees left earlier than planned, the typical exit landing around age 60, to roughly 3 years ahead of the commonly assumed 65.
Of those early exits, health issues topped the list of reasons, with job disruption close behind. Only about 1 in 5 left early because they were financially ready to.
In the backup plan people lean on, I'll just work part, time to fill the gap, doesn't hold up well either.
Most workers expect to earn some income after retiring. Far fewer retirees actually manage it. The labor market has a way of not cooperating with people who need it most.
Roughly 11,000 Americans leave the workforce every single day. Most didn't pick that date.
Stay with me, because what's coming next isn't a small correction to your number. It's a different order of magnitude.
Let me bring in someone else. I'll call her Priya.
51, roughly $310,000 saved, a believable path to $750,000 by 65.
She's careful, organized, has done more homework than most people ever will. I'll come back to her because her story shows something important about what doing it right
actually protects you from and what it doesn't. Now, the part that does the most financial damage isn't one bad event.
It's three costs that tend to arrive at exactly the same moment. The moment you actually stop working.
Cost 1, the coverage gap. This is the stretch between whenever you actually retire, statistically around 60, 2, and when Medicare kicks in at 65.
3 years unprotected.
With enhanced marketplace subsidies rolled back, someone earning above a fairly modest income threshold can face full price premiums well north of $1,000 a month, climbing further as
they approach 65.
Stack deductibles and prescriptions on top, and multi-year research from major retirement providers pegs lifetime health care costs for a retired couple well into the mid-six figures, and that
figure still excludes long-term care.
Exit at 62 instead of 65, and you're adding tens of thousands in premiums during the exact years. Your portfolio is most fragile the early years, when a market dip does the most.
Lasting damage because you're selling shares to eat. Cost 2. Social Security timing. Claim early and your benefit locks in at a permanently reduced rate, as much as 30% lower for life.
Wait until 70 instead, and you lock in the maximum, over 20% above the standard full benefit amount.
This isn't a scheduling choice. It's a decision about the size of a paycheck you'll receive for the rest of your life.
Delaying past full retirement age adds roughly 8% per year, guaranteed government-backed.
No index fund on Earth offers a guaranteed 8% just for patients. Cost 3, the quiet one.
Every year you're forced out early is a year of contributions and compounding you never get back. Take someone earning a solid mid-5 figures, contributing steadily.
5 lost years of contributions alone can total close to $100,000 in missed deposits.
Layer on the compounding those dollars would have generated, and a portfolio that could have grown past 600,000 instead stalls closer to 400.
At a standard withdrawal rate, that gap is worth thousands in annual income every single year for the rest of retirement.
Add the three together, the coverage gap, the reduced benefit, the lost compounding, and you get a number most people never see until it's already happened to them.
By the way, if this is landing, tap that like button. It genuinely tells the algorithm to put this in front of more people who need to hear it and costs you nothing.
Now, the 4% rule.
You've probably heard of it. Withdraw 4% of your portfolio in year 1, adjust for inflation after that, and historically you'd have survived a 30-year retirement in the vast majority
of scenarios researchers tested. The original researcher behind it has since said publicly that 4% may actually be too cautious for a standard 30-year horizon.
But here's the twist almost nobody mentions. That math assumes 30 years.
If you're forced out early and your retirement stretches closer to 40 years, most researchers now recommend something closer to 3 to 3 and 0.5%, not 4. On a portfolio around 600,000, that gap is worth thousands of dollars a year, every year, indefinitely.
And none of that accounts for a market downturn hitting in your first few years out, which, historically, is the single most dangerous timing event a retirement portfolio can face.
Back to Priya, her math works if she reaches 60, 5 on schedule with her full balance intact.
But run the same stress test we ran on Marcus. What if she's out at 60, 1 instead?
Her balance could land closer to 500,000 instead of the projected $750 million gap before she's withdrawn a single dollar.
Add 3 or 4 years of uncovered premiums. Add a reduced Social Security claim taken out of necessity, not choice.
Run the lower withdrawal rate against the smaller balance, and her annual income in retirement could be thousands of dollars lower every year for decades.
Her math wasn't wrong, the assumption hiding inside it was.
Here's something psychology researchers have pointed out for years. We're genuinely bad at planning for situations where we're not the one steering.
We plan beautifully for the version of our future where our choices decide the outcome. We plan terribly for the version where something happens to us, and our choices only shape how we respond.
The data says the second version is the one most people actually live.
One more thing worth knowing. The generation currently in their mid-40s to late 50s is, by most measures, the least prepared for retirement of any living generation, largely because they
entered the workforce right as traditional pensions were disappearing, with none of the automatic savings structures younger workers have today.
They've also lived through more market shocks than most generations before them. And there's a timing coincidence worth sitting with. Current projections show the Social Security Trust Fund reserves running low in the early 2030s, which happens to be roughly when the oldest
members of that same generation reach full retirement age. If reserves are depleted as projected, benefits could face an automatic cut of roughly a fifth.
Some advisors will tell you Congress always fixes this before it becomes a real problem, and historically, that's true.
But they've always fixed it before, is a hope, not a plan you can build a retirement around. Let me close the loop on Priya.
A few months after we talked, she hadn't rebuilt her whole strategy. Most people don't, and that's fine.
But she did two things. First, she bumped her contribution up just enough to fully capture her employer match, which she'd been leaving on the table.
Second, she opened a separate account. She calls it her gap fund, and feeds it a small amount every month, specifically earmarked for a possible pre-Medicare stretch.
It won't cover everything, but it means she's no longer betting her entire plan on reaching 65 exactly on schedule.
That's the actual goal here, not perfection. Just building the failure mode into the plan instead of discovering it after the fact.
So here's what I want you to walk away with: the 3 moves specific to everything we just covered. 1. Run your numbers against 60. 2. Not 67.
What does your monthly income actually look like if you're pulled out 5 years earlier than planned, using a more conservative withdrawal rate to account for the longer stretch?
If you can't answer that in 10 minutes, that's this week's homework.
2. Build a real line item for pre-Medicare health care costs. Not a guess, an actual number, even if it's just a small monthly transfer into a dedicated account starting today. 3. Treat your Social Security claiming age as a financial decision with a guaranteed government-backed return attached to it, not a whenever I need it default.
If your portfolio can support waiting, the math very often rewards patience. None of this is about fear.
It's about building a plan that survives contact with a life that doesn't always ask permission.
If this helped you see your own timeline differently, hit subscribe. I'm digging into the real mechanics of retirement, timing, and risk every week here on Novira Invests. And I don't want the algorithm to lose you between now and the next one.